few months I've been studying advanced higher biology as an online course through the University of Aberdeen, and there's one unit that's particularly stood out to me so far, as I've found it quite it's a thing I've experienced before. I've seen other people experience it before, and I've seen and it's generally quite a common experience, I think, for a lot of people, more commonly so as students, most commonly in students who are starting like a degree or doing what I'm doing, or starting new school or subject or whatever, but it's also applicable to jobs and whatnot as well. But this unit is on the dunning-Kruger effect and imposter syndrome. So it's an interesting subject, as the dunning-Kruger effect and imposter syndrome are, although they're related, they're the opposites of each other, if that makes any sense. And both of which you can not necessarily suffer from these effects, but you can be affected by them, but you can also overcome them. And it's just kind of how to identify it, how it might feel, and how to overcome it. So I'm going to be starting with the dunning-Kruger effect, which is the disconnect between perception or perceived ability and the reality or your actual ability to be able to do something. And there's three, not necessarily three ways to describe it, but kind of three stages to the dunning-Kruger effect, which the first one's the peak of Mount Stupid, which is if you were to have a graph, it would be the top of the graph, which is you're at the point of you think you know better than what you actually do. And the second one is the Valley of Despair. So say that you went into an assessment, or the equivalent of an assessment. You go into it thinking you know more than you do. You sit down, you do it, you get your results back, and you've not done anywhere near as good as you thought you would have done. Receiving that feedback is, or can be described as, the Valley of Despair, which is just basically the drop-off point of, oh, I didn't do as well as what I thought I had done, or what I should have done. And that's how the dunning-Kruger effect works, is that you think you're better than what you actually know, or you think you know more than what you do. And then the third one's just, you feel a bit shitty about how you done and that kind of thing, which isn't ideal, but you can recover from that, but it's quite a difficult mindset to deal with, because you think you're doing better than what you actually are, then you find out that you're nowhere near as good as what you were, and that's when it can become a problem. But how to avoid the dunning-Kruger effect is pretty much the same as the imposter syndrome of how to like avoid it or solve it. If you're at the point where before you have to deal with this, it's how to avoid getting stuck in either the dunning-Kruger effect or imposter syndrome effect. You can avoid it by certain ways, or like if you've suffered from it and you're now at the point where you feel like shit because of it, then you can kind of like amend it in a way. So there are ways to fix it, but like the imposter syndrome and the dunning-Kruger effect they kind of go hand in hand in how to resolve it or how to avoid getting into those frames of mindset. So, like I've already said, the imposter syndrome is the opposite of the dunning-Kruger effect, and it's basically when people underestimate their ability or their knowledge and kind of don't perform as well because of that. And there's like kind of 4 attributes to imposter syndrome, and the first one, it pretty much just prevents people from fully partaking in whatever it may be that they're doing. So if they're like group work, student work, class work, team building exercise at work, teamwork in general, that kind of thing. The second attribute, it can bring up quite a lot of stress and anxiety because you feel like you can't do what's being asked of you because you don't feel capable of doing it. And the third attribute is that it can cause over complications, and which again isn't ideal if you're working as part of a team, because if you're suffering with imposter syndrome, you're like, even if you're asking or being asked by somebody else who knows that you can do the job that they're going to ask you to do, and you are dealing with imposter syndrome, you're then, even the simplest tasks, you're going to overcomplicate, and because you're stressed about it or anxious about it because you feel like it's out of your, not necessarily out of your comfort zone, but you don't feel like you have the capabilities of doing it. The fourth attribute is if someone does give you feedback, it's less effective because it's that thing with imposter syndrome where you don't feel like you're good enough, essentially. And again, in line with the dunning-Kruger effect, it's like the ways to avoid it are the same going into it, and kind of like how to come out of it, essentially. But the dunning-Kruger effect and imposter syndrome are basically the opposites of each other. The dunning-Kruger effect is essentially the disconnect between perception and reality, whilst imposter syndrome is people underestimate what they can actually do, which pretty much almost holds someone back from actually fully partaking, fully contributing to whatever it is they may be doing. And someone with it might just walk into assessment or that kind of thing, like not really feeling like they have a place there and they're almost withdrawing from it due to the fact of how imposter syndrome works. So you can kind of understand how you can describe them as being opposites of each other. So the ways to either avoid getting into the mindset of dunning-Kruger effect or the imposter syndrome effect, or to even overcome it if you're already in that mindset, is you question what you actually, if you're going into an assessment or whatever it is you're going to go and do, you question what you know. You have, regardless of how you feel going into that situation, you give it your best shot. When someone gives you feedback on what it is you've done, you try your best to take that on board and to use it to kind of improve what you've done. Because even if you feel like you've done a good job of it and done the best to what your knowledge can actually provide, you take that feedback on board, which if you're already in the mindset, it's quite a hard thing to take on. And I know it can be a hard thing to take on, but if it's something you don't struggle with at all, feedback is still a very useful thing. And if you're working in a team of other people, then talk to the people you're with, talk to the people that are in your team, and try and let them inspire you to do better. And if you're revising for an assessment and you feel if you feel like imposter syndrome's being a issue, or even if with the issue with the dunning-Kruger effect is that you think you're better than you are, which in reality it's not. So it's better to talk to the people around you, because they might know more than you, they might not, you might know more than them, but kind of take inspiration from those around you and talk to those people around you, because then there's stuff that you know that they might not know, there's stuff that they'll know that you won't know, and therefore you're increasing your knowledge base because you're talking to them, you're revising with them, you're kind of collaborating with them in the extent of you're not just improving your knowledge base, but you're also improving theirs, because like I've said, you know stuff that they don't, they know stuff that you don't, so you're kind of combining your knowledge base together to make your knowledge better. And even if you're talking to those people who are doing the same thing as you, or you're revising with someone, I've even seen people kind of go and talk to other people who are studying something different or working as something entirely different from what it is that you're doing, and you might not have any you might not know anything of what that other person is doing or have any understanding of it, but by questioning their work or them questioning your work and you then having to explain it actually helps you understand what you know, what you don't know, so then you can go away and be right, I didn't know very much of this or about this, so I'll go and do more work on that, or or you might go away thinking, actually, I knew more on that than what I thought I did. And so you kind of just need to, like, that's just one of the ways of overcoming either effect is by talking to other people, seeing what they know, seeing what you can then explain to them what you know, and you can kind of work together. And even though, like, if you're a student and you've got an assessment to do, like, yeah, okay, fine, you'll be doing that assessment on your own, but on the lead up to that assessment, you talk to other students, you're then kind of you're then kind of learning from each other, and your knowledge base will become better from that. And even if you've got like revision questions or whatever to go through, you could do them together, because you'll get to one question, one person will have the answer just straight away. You'll have the answer straight away to another question, whilst the others are just looking at the same question and just like, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank here. You can then step in and say, oh, I know that. I can, like, this is what I think the answer is. You then self-mark that between the two of you, and you say, actually, well, my answer wasn't correct. They didn't know the answer, so you go back through your lecture and work out what the correct answer is, and you're then learning together, and it makes it all a lot easier. But like, definitely quite like that method of talking to those around you also helps with, like, kind of by talking to other people, you're also questioning what you know, because you're trying to help them, they're trying to help you, and just generally having like a go at it. You're going at it together, like, and it removes some of the pressure of it all being on you, and it takes some of that burden off of the fact that you're not doing it alone. And even if like you've doing revision at home and you're really struggling with it, go to your lecturer, they'll give you like proper feedback from it. And although like the feedback that they give you might seem a bit harsh to start with, but they don't mean to make it harsh. It's just from what they're seeing you do, that's just like they're trying to make it a bit simpler for you, and that's kind of how it, like, you'll improve massively by just taking on that feedback and like kind of then going back to what knowledge you have and trying to apply what you've just been told to like what's your knowledge base that's already there. So that's kind of like, I suppose it's how to avoid the both effects and how to overcome them are basically just the same thing, but they kind of, it's just trying to build your knowledge base so that you're kind of can come out of it better than what you did going into it.